Hey everybody, I want to talk to you briefly about two things about Venezuela and about Pete Hegseth. And it's connected in a way. So, Venezuela, this morning, Donald Trump went out and posted on his social media accounts, both Truth Social and Twitter, that he was closing down the surrounding airspace and the airspace of Venezuela, or he was telling that to the people who are flying in that airspace. First of all, Donald Trump does not have the power to close down the airspace of a foreign country. That power belongs to the top leader of that country, which is right now Nicolas Maduro. And secondly, Donald Trump is manufacturing a war. You understand that? In his anti-immigrant rant Thanksgiving post, he blamed everything on immigrants, and he is getting ready to go to war against immigrants and then also go to war against a foreign nation to distract from his failing economic and domestic policies. He's doing that by pushing the police state in the United States and going with the National Guard. He's doing that with sending military patrols and National Guard across the country. Now he's doing that with foreign nations. And it is, I believe, a lot of it has to do with the fact that he is panicking that his economic agenda is failing. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about is the news coming out that Pete Hegseth, when he ordered the first strikes on the boats in the Caribbean, instructed the commanding officer of that operation to kill them all. And in the first instance, when they shot shot a missile at the boat blew apart. But then there were two survivors who were clinging onto the wreckage. And because of Pete Hegseth's order to kill them all, the commanding general gave the order to strike for a second time, specifically to kill those two people who were clinging onto the wreckage. And they have come up with some cockamamie theoretical rationale that it was possible that these people could get to call others to their rescue, blah, 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 blah. But essentially, what Pete Hegseth did, Stephen Miller's wife went on to Abby Phillips' show and was talking to Bakari Sellers and said, what is the statute that is violated when you kill somebody in drug boats and in drug cartels? And Mr. Sellers said it's the due process clause. It's a Fifth Amendment right to due process of all persons who are within U.S. jurisdiction. So if you're claiming jurisdiction on them by bombing them or targeting them, you follow the rule of law and the due process of shooting their, as Heather Cox Richardson would say, shooting their motors of the boats and then taking them into custody and prosecuting them instead of blowing up the boats. And here we have the Secretary of Defense, who coined himself the Secretary of War, saying that kill them all. It has taken the Trump administration less than a year to come around to kill them all. He already did an in-kind let them eat cake by having the country during the shutdown go to food pantries while he threw a Great Gatsby party, and he threw more parties like that. And so we are living in a world now with Pete Hegseth coming out and saying kill them all, and war experts and scholars are saying that what he said, qualifies as a war crime and it is an illegal order. It is no wonder that Pete Hegseth was so sensitive to those 6 members of Congress who were veterans to come out and warn the military that they have an obligation to follow only lawful orders and not unlawful orders. And, it makes sense because Pete Hegseth had already given his first illegal order by that time. We are so we're slipping down into an authoritarian regime that is trying to upend and topple the government of a foreign nation. And Donald Trump is posting that on social media. And his use of Twitter is interesting to me. He's been posting on it more frequently now, I think, since the last few months. And it is just insane that we are even at this posture, that there's a aircraft carrier fleet in South American waters, and Donald Trump is telling the world that the airspace of Venezuela and around Venezuela is closed when he doesn't have the power to do so, with Pete Hegseth ordering the killing of people on these boats, specifically to kill them all. And there are commanders in that chain of command who follow that order without ever taking it to the JAG, to the judge advocate generals, to the lawyers to see if that order is legal or not. There needs to be an inquiry about that as well. And the Armed Services Committee's Republican chairman and Democratic ranking member have issued a letter to the Department of Defense to start oversight and questioning and investigations into what happened with these drug boat killings that have killed over 80 people in the last few months that this operation has started. With that said, pay attention to the news. Pay attention to these little incremental ways in which the executive is amassing power and not going to Congress in order to enact any war powers resolutions, but knocking boats out of the water and has killed 80 people already, and now by de facto declaring war or creating a hostile environment and promoting altercation and adversarial confrontation with Venezuela, with the threat of toppling its regime. Something is definitely wrong with the president. Something is definitely wrong with his presidency and with his cabinet secretaries, especially Pete Hegseth in this case. But there's also news that J.D. Vance has connections to the corrupt scheme of rare earth minerals and other business deals with Russian oligarchs, and that's why they were pushing the 28-point deal that was going to favor Russia and give nothing to Ukraine, and that had excluded Ukraine and Europe from the negotiating table. And the posture now is that Russia is only going to negotiate with the United States. How the hell are you going to negotiate with the United States when the issue is about you invading Ukraine? You know how you stop this whole thing? You get the fuck out of Ukraine. With that said, talk to you soon.